Hello and welcome to Rams Revealed. I'm your host, JB Long, and it feels like we're getting closer to football season, doesn't it? Significant progress this week from the NFL and the NFLPA. Hopefully more to come. And we're also rooting for our friends and colleagues and peers in the NBA and Major League Baseball and the NHL, all the entities that are striving to create a safe environment for competition. Hopefully there's some real sports synergy and momentum and best practices we're all learning and adopting. Our guest today is Austin Blythe, who was drafted out of Iowa by the Indianapolis Colts, but waived after his rookie year. And so he joined the Rams in 2017 as a versatile backup on the interior of the offensive line. And by 2018, he had taken advantage of an opportunity to replace Jamon Brown at right guard. And that was a starting job he never relinquished on the way to an NFC championship. As our audience knows, though, 2019 was a painful reminder that the continuity the Rams enjoyed along their offensive line for multiple seasons was a rare exception to life in the NFL. And playing through bumps and bruises himself, Blythe had to bounce from right guard to left and eventually took over at center, where Brian Allen was lost for the back half of the schedule. Blythe was an unrestricted free agent this offseason, but chose to re-sign with Los Angeles in March, presumably to be their starting center. And we'll talk quite a bit about how his versatility has helped him build an NFL career. But in 2020, it seems he's got a very specific task in front of him. So there are many places we could begin our conversation with Austin, but let's start in the here and now before we rewind for some of the backstory. Austin, thanks for being with us. I hope you and your family have found some silver linings, I guess, in this challenging time to be both a parent and a professional. How have you navigated the last few months?
There have been many silver linings, as you mentioned. It's been awesome. Sally was born at the end of January, about a month after the season ended. And it's allowed us a ton of time to kind of watch her develop, or it's allowed me a ton of time to watch her develop and grow. And I told my wife she's 6 months old today, and it's been the fastest 6 months of my life. So there's a silver lining in that. Also getting to spend a ton of time and catching up on lost time with my son, Reed, who just turned 4. So just a ton of family time. It's allowed me to let my body recover, really just feel good and healthy coming into this season. And I think those are some silver linings that I can take away from this last 6 months or 4 months or whatever of quarantine, and ready to go, anxious to get going again.
All right, so we kind of start the conversation. You're in Iowa, you're preparing to transition back to Los Angeles, and I do want to circle back and kind of finish with that rural Iowa experience all the way through your college days as we continue this Rams Revealed conversation. But as I mentioned in your introduction, you were a free agent this offseason. Let's dig into some of the NFL specifics. Was there ever a consideration of exploring other professional options, Austin, or was it your intention to return to the Rams if at all possible?
Yeah, I think it was definitely my intention to try and return to the Rams. But at the same time, I think in any profession, whether it be football, you're in the corporate world, whatever it is, you're going to look for options that may be better than the ones that are presented to you in your your current job, current position. And I did that a little bit. And, at the end of the day, I just looked at my position and outlook with the Rams and the people that I'm surrounded with in that organization kind of just separated itself from anything else that I had on the table. And I was happy with how it worked out. I'm very excited to be back. It's been a long 7 months, 8 months now, or whatever, since the season ended for us last year, and just anxious to get going and, have a good season.
So from my conversation with Sean, it seems fair to say that the dialogue with you focused on being the Rams starting center in 2020. Was that your read on it as well?
Yeah. And I think that was, one of the main reasons why I came back to the Rams, because I came into the league initially thinking that I'd be a center. I had no inkling that I'd ever really start significant games at guard. I knew that was a possibility just based on my position coming into the league, being an interior offensive line, playing those positions in college. I knew that was a possibility, but I did not by any means think that I'd have this many starts at guard over center. So I'm very excited for the opportunity to play at a position that I'm very comfortable in, and excited to grow off those 8 games that I played in last year at center.
I mean, it must feel a bit like home for you, knowing your high school and college career. Now, for the first time you enter a professional season as the assumed starting center, what impact, if any, does that have on your frame of mind and also your preparation as you ramp up for this year?
I think it has a huge impact. I think last year going into the season, I didn't take any reps at center. I would go out there for center quarterback exchange for 5 minutes before practice started and get some snaps there. But that's just snapping a football. Like, that's easy to do. But in terms of actually preparing at the center spot, it's a different animal. You're on the line of scrimmage. You're closer to the guy you're going to have to block versus guard, where obviously you're a little further away from the ball. You're a little further off the ball. Guys have a little bit more space to work moves. It just takes longer at the guard spot. I know it seems minuscule, but it does make a difference. So that sort of thing I'm going to be able to get comfortable with before I even have to play a game versus going in there second quarter of the Steelers game last year and kind of going with it on the fly, and obviously offensive line is offensive line. But there are little nuances to different positions on the line.
Austin, quick tangent here, because you were a 7th-round pick of the Colts. You alluded to the fact that you came in as a center. You saw live action as a rookie, even made a start. But then you were waived after just one season. What were your thoughts, if you can remember, at that point? Did you believe that there was still a clear path to making a career in the league, or were you concerned that it might be a one-and-done situation?
Yeah, I did not think there was a clear path. I always told myself before I even got into the league, preparing for the draft and stuff like that, post-college career, I always told myself and Kylie, my wife, if I was going to be a guy that bounced around from team to team, got cut here and there, was up again, off, down again on the active roster, the practice squad, if I had that sort of path in NFL, I wasn't going to do it for very long, because that's just not the life I wanted to live, and especially with having Reed right before my rookie training camp in 2016. I just didn't want that for us. So that happened, and I was left wondering, what is going to happen now? Los Angeles was a team that if I got to free agency in the draft in 2016, that I had an opportunity to go out and play for. And we quickly crossed it off the list because it just moved from St. Louis to LA. Just a logistical nightmare. Didn't know where they were going to practice, play, all this sort of stuff, right? So I was just like, nope, not going there. So when I got cut, we said the same things, still kind of, they're still transitioning from St. Louis to LA. It's halfway across the country. Our families are really important to us. It's going to be harder for them to travel out there and visit. And lo and behold, we got the call to go out to LA, and we both kind of just taken aback, kind of like the rug pulled out of us feeling, kind of. And I remember Kylie bawling. So I got picked up. I had to go out that same day, get on a flight 5 hours later to go out after I realized that I got picked up. So Kylie's crying. It's our anniversary. We're having a good day. And I just remember telling her, I was like, I need you with me in this if I'm going to do this. And the rest is history. I've had a great career so far and anxious to continue it in LA.
Well, I'm happy it's worked out for you professionally, and even more poignant that it's been a comfortable place for your family as well to be a part of the Rams organization.
Yeah, it's like a 80 from what we anticipated.
Oh, I can only imagine. In fact, I was going to ask you later, but I'll just kind of put it in here. Coming from Williamsburg, Iowa, which is, by census a town of about 3,000 people, yep, out to the greater Los Angeles area, what's one thing that you love about and prefer in Iowa, and one thing that maybe you've come to really enjoy about Southern California?
The one thing that I think we really enjoy about Williamsburg is just the total community feel of this town. There's been countless examples just in the last couple of years that I can name off the top of my head where you really just appreciate where we come from. We grew up in Williamsburg, so we've always wanted to settle down here, but you just appreciate how at home you feel. The people in Williamsburg are great. It's a community that pulls together for other families that need help. And then you go out to a place like Thousand Oaks or Los Angeles, and it's very nice to have things to do for your kids. Very nice to go out to a good restaurant that's 5 minutes away versus 5 versus 25 minutes isn't that big of a deal. When you're talking about having a babysitter, kids, all that stuff, it is a big deal. So having that stuff close, like I mentioned, stuff for kids. Reed loves Chuck E. Cheese. He loves Dojo Boom, that trampoline park there, movie theaters 5 minutes away. So that sort of stuff is nice. But to us, you just can't beat the small town feel of where we're from in Williamsburg.
I spent the better part of 2 years in Iowa in the Quad Cities, Austin, and the summers there are pretty special. I mean,
yeah.
pretty unique, and it's not at all what the stereotypes that I'm sure you've heard your whole life make it out to be.
Yep. You get a hard time from guys. It's like, why in the world do you want to live there? It's like, I don't know, until you experience it, you just don't. You can't explain it to people.
And you married your high school coach's daughter, which sounds like Friday Night Lights, but I'm sure you've only heard that about 2,000 times.
Yeah, it's interesting. We didn't actually start dating until we went off to college, though. So it was all kosher in high school with the high school football coach.
And if my research is correct, you're now in business with your father-in-law. Can you tell us about Legacy Acres?
Yeah, that's been a really fun adventure. So 2.5 years ago, he approached me and was like, hey, I've been working out there for 20, 25 years, and the guy that owns it is getting older. His sons don't want to keep it going, and he's looking to sell. So, and growing up an outdoors guy, hunting, fishing, doing whatever outdoors, I was like, wow, something that I can look forward to after football, kind of have a plan made for me, kind of just fell into my lap. And something that we've kind of hit the ground running with, going into year 3 now, starting to build a lodge, kind of doing some of the things that we talked about doing post-football, but with how it's going out there now, it's been really good, really successful. So, he kind of holds down the fort back here, and I'm anxious to have a plan, or excited to have a plan post-football, because a lot of guys don't have that.
So it sounds like your clientele, instead of organizing maybe a group golf outing or weekend, would engage in a kind of a hosted hunting experience. Do I have that description correct, more or less?
Exactly. Yeah. So guys can come out and, they say, we want to stay for, 3 nights, 4 days hunt. And we put out birds for them, and they go out and have a good time, and hopefully tell other people about us, and we get more business that way. So it's a fun deal if you're into hunting.
Have any Rams come out yet?
Not yet. I've had a lot of past Iowa teammates come out and have some outings, but no Rams players. I'm working on it.
Well, I'm almost glad, because now I can ask, who do you think is the best shot on your team? Like, if you were drafting a group to come out to Iowa, who would be your number 1 draft pick?
Oh man, if you asked me a couple of years ago, it'd be John Sullivan. I know he does hunting now. I think Rob Havenstein would be good. He's spent a lot of time in the Midwest. I know he's not from the Midwest, but spent a lot of time in Wisconsin. David Edwards would be another good one, I think. And I don't know. I think that I feel like any offensive lineman, you stick them into something they haven't done before, they'll learn quickly and be good at it.
I'm afraid to ask, but how about the worst? Who would you not want to be stuck with?
Oh man, that's a good question. Shoot. I don't know. I feel like I want to say Colone. I just feel like, from California, hasn't probably spent a lot of time on a field, not a lot of time around guns. So I feel like I'd peg him as the worst, but
maybe something to discuss when you all get back together for training camp. And I do want to get back to John Sullivan and the Rams, but since we've kind of gone down this pathway, while we're still in the Iowa frame of mind, while you were in Iowa City, George Kittle was one of your teammates. I wonder how you would describe your relationship with arguably the best player on your biggest rival now professionally.
Yeah, George is always I feel like what you see is what you get with George. He's not a guy that is going to fake anything. It's just who he is. He's a goofball. He loves having fun. And I think that's the way he plays, and I think that's why he's a good football player. He doesn't take it too seriously. Obviously, he takes it serious enough to train as hard as he does, to play as hard as he does. But at the same time, you got to have a level of fun with it, and I think that's why he's been so successful.
Well, I hope you and George get to battle on the field for many years to come in Los Angeles and San Francisco. You mentioned John Sullivan and the fact that you share some off-field interests. And so let's get back to the Rams camp a bit, in that you saw what Sully was able to do in partnership with Sean and Jared when he was playing center for the Rams. How do you think you were able to manage those responsibilities at the end of last season, and how can you build off that in 2020?
Yeah, I think John, I think being able to play next to him, not only watch him play the first year I got there, but to be able to play with him the following year and just to see how he prepared, how he saw things, how he analyzes things, processes things, really helped me just kind of seamlessly step into that role last year. In meetings, I just had a knack for doing it all the way back at Iowa. So I just kind of continued doing that in the NFL and is kind of making sure I knew all the responsibilities and assignments of those three spots on the interior offensive line. And that was no different last year. The first 8 games, obviously I played guard, and I would always know the center plan, know the checks, know the looks, know everything that a center would need to know in case something did happen, like it did, that I would be able to move over and there'd be no hiccups, no speed bumps, nothing, and Jared would feel comfortable. So I think I learned a lot from John, and I think that's one of the main reasons why I was able to do to move over seamlessly last year.
Speaking of Jared feeling comfortable, what about the point that, look, he's going into year 5, 4th season in Sean's system. He's a smart guy. Shouldn't he kind of be taking more of the reins at this point? That's kind of an outside-in commentary. What does it look like from the inside out?
Yeah, I think that's what's special about having centers that can see that stuff, is that it kind of takes some of the pressure off of him from having to know all that stuff. Or not, I shouldn't say know all that stuff, but spearhead all that stuff and make the checks and have to be perfect, 100% perfect in those scenarios and those protocols. I think having a center that can do that just allows him to play the game as it's supposed to from the quarterback position. And, I think he does know that stuff, but again, it's just nice to have 2 people to have those, to share those responsibilities, kind of like for both of us.
Yeah. It sounds like you're freeing up his bandwidth for other concerns.
Exactly.
All right. So this next question is kind of just a different way of asking, how weird is it going to be to play in an empty stadium? But I'm kind of tired of that question, quite frankly, and those answers. But I think I can say with a high degree of confidence, Austin, you won't need to put in much work into like a silent count this year. It's probably like not at the top of the to-do list. Can you give us a sense, especially for road games, what impact that will have at the line of scrimmage?
It's going to be huge. I think obviously teams are better with cadence, pre-snap penalties, checks, motions, everything that goes into pre-snap football will be essentially the same everywhere. Doesn't matter where you're playing, road and home, anywhere, neutral site, anything. My interest would be to see if the NFL would allow a certain noise level from opposing stadiums. Obviously you can't pump it in, so it's louder than it ever would be with fans. But it'd be interesting to see, because I don't know, it's going to be tough. I mean, obviously the game of football provides its own kind of motivation, being able to play it and stuff like that. But at the same time, you feed off of your fans. And it'll be interesting to see how the dynamic changes a little bit.
I think at SoFi Stadium, maybe we just have this beautiful wind chime that we're hearing. Williamsburg, Iowa.
It'd be distracting, yeah. I could take it down if you need to.
No, I like it. I just wanted to make sure I referenced it at some point so our audience didn't think that Rams Reveal got like some new soothing background music.
Yeah. We got a sleeping kid and a kid playing inside, so I just wanted to have my own space so it wasn't interrupted.
I totally get it. I got 4 years and 7 months, so any peaceful, soothing noise is much appreciated, if not a white noise machine. Couple more, and then we'll let you get back to your family, and look forward to seeing you in Los Angeles. The Rams candidates, Austin, at guard next to you, I think are pretty intriguing, whether it's Austin Corbett, David Edwards, perhaps Bobby Evans, Joe Noteboom coming off an injury. What are you looking for in terms of the men on either shoulder, having played their role at this level yourself?
As far as what I'm looking for, I mean, that's at this point, everybody's capable. I know what those guys bring to the table. Corbett he's a extremely strong and explosive football player. I think you saw that a little bit last year once he stepped in. Joe is just an athletic freak. David's got his own athletic abilities, but he's extremely smart. So all those guys, and Bobby's another athletic guy. that can play any position. I think he played all 4 positions last year in the preseason, so he's capable of doing it at any spot. So anybody who steps into those roles is going to be well equipped to be able to handle it. And I'm, whoever it is, I'm excited to just be able to go out and play and see those guys and try to win some football games.
Knowing that position group hasn't been on the field together since December and without the benefit of joint sessions or preseason games, what would your ideal training camp look like in terms of getting in sync with the starting 5?
I think being on the field as much as we can together, walking through plays, running through plays, whenever that is allowed to happen. In the meeting rooms, having an open dialogue. And I think that's something that Coach Cromer does an awesome job of is just allowing guys to speak if they have a question, comment on things, and just, again, having an open dialogue and getting questions answered. So people, once we get out there, whoever it is, it's seamless. Guys know what to do. Guys know what the terminology is. And again, just super excited to get going and start working together again.
Well, safe travels back to Los Angeles. I hope your family can join you and that the logistics work out before too much longer. But I understand that you've got a great setup there in Williamsburg, Iowa, too. And we're happy for you and happy for that. Thanks for your time, Austin.
Appreciate it, JB.
To our audience, before you get on with your day, we would love it if you took a moment now to let us know that you're listening. Please rate us, leave a review, especially if you're listening on Apple Podcasts. Those are quite helpful. And also subscribe so that you can be notified when the next episode is available as we ramp up through training camp and into the season ahead. For Austin Blythe, Matt Israel, Jory Hirsch, Travis Langer, I'm JB Long, and this is Rams Revealed.